Good morning. I call to order this special call meeting of the Joint Board of the Albany-Dougherty Board of Elections to address communications from the attorneys representing the New Georgia Project. In this communications, they assert that the dates set forth for elections in Albany-Dougherty County violates Georgia mandates and law. And so we are here today to answer those, to answer this letter and to make a decision whether or not we will make amendments to the voting date. We have with us County Attorney Spencer Lee, who will come and give us an explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
okay. The election board got a letter from Adam Sparks, an attorney in Atlanta recently, and he was simply stating to the election board that we're not following the statutory guidelines on advanced voting. That there were 3 extra days that we needed to grant under the terms of the statute itself for advanced voting. That was December the 19th, the 24th, either January the 2nd or January the 4th. And of course that was due to the fact that we were all of a sudden falling in where federal holidays are and state holidays, Christmas and New Year's. And the statute did provide for that. So I contacted Ken Robin, who handled the New Republic case for this county, who was also handling several other requests from this same lawyer for other counties. And he and I talked about it, and I looked at it, and it did appear to state that the floor for advanced voting, we had to have the 19th of December, and we had to have the 24th, the day before Christmas. And quite frankly, it looked like we ought to have the 2nd, either the 2nd or the 4th before the election. Of course, Ken researched it and I researched it, and he came up with his research was the same as mine. We don't think we have to have either January the 2nd or the 4th because there has to be a pause between the last day of voting and the election in order to give the election board time to get ready for the election itself, move equipment around. So that's what we were dealing with there. We didn't feel like we needed to do that. And I talked to Adam Sparks, the attorney for these, whoever it is, and he didn't disclose who his client was. And he had said that if we didn't answer him by Monday at 2 o'clock, that they were going to have to file legal action against all these counties. So I talked with him, and he agreed to hold off on that, and Ken and I started looking at it again. So we discounted the fact that we needed the 2nd and the 4th, but we looked at it and we felt like, based on what we saw under the statute, that we did need the 19th and the 24th. Well, of course, you can't hold an election on a state holiday. After we sent the letter out to Ginger and the board, stating that we needed the 19th and the 24th, we did a little further research and we found out that a former governor had declared the 24th as a state holiday, recognizing George Washington's birthday. Well, his birthday is in February, but the state had already declared that a state holiday. So Ken and I talked again, and we felt like that we did not need to put in the 24th as an advanced voting day. Now, so the only day we're dealing with here today, if it's your desire, is the 19th. And we do have to have the 19th as an advanced voting day. So we're going to need to change that. And that's why we're here today. Now, that statute is simply a floor for advanced voting days. It says you have to do these. It doesn't say that you can't do more. So if you wanted to have the 24th as a voting day, you can. But you don't have to, in our opinion. Now, we haven't discussed that with Adam Sparks, the lawyer, but we feel fairly comfortable that it being a state-declared holiday, that you can't vote on a state-declared holiday. So we feel fairly comfortable that the 24th shouldn't be a day either, mandatorily. However, again, you can have it if you like. So we're only here statutorily to provide for the 19th being a voting day. That one was not provided for before, but the statute calls for it to be provided for as an advanced voting day. So I prepared for your review a motion, and I understand that you're going to say I hereby move rather than make a motion. That's fine, whatever language you want. However you want to change and modify the dates. And of course, if you'll read that, and I'll take any questions you have.
What did you rely on to find that?
Could you pull that mask down? I have trouble understanding it if you all surrounded.
What did you rely on to say that the Saturday voting in a runoff is required? Because I read that they say Friday immediately prior to each primary election or runoff, the voting shall end.
I arrived at it by that statute that you're reading.
In the next sentence,
I can't argue with you about it. I can't explain it to you right now, but the statute provides, says that we've got to have it on the 19th. If you pull out your calendar and trace those dates.
I'm just reading it to see that.
Well, I'm just advising you that we got to have it on the 19th. But it's okay with me if y'all don't want to.
Well, it says that for a primary or election, there shall be Saturday voting. That's my confusion, but in the previous sentence, it says primary, election, or runoff.
Okay, well, we have a disagreement on the interpretation then.
May I say something? It also says in an election in which there are no federal or state candidates, and this election does have federal candidates. So I think that is the reason.
But it just talks about primary or election, and then it goes on to say, yes, those primaries and elections with federal candidates have to have Saturday voting, but it's in the code throughout. There are many instances it says primary election or runoff, in primary election or runoff, primary election or runoff, where it specifies a runoff in the code in 21-2-386 G2, G3, it's specifying primary election or runoff, but in that particular part of the code that talks about Saturday voting, it just says voting shall be conducted during normal business hours on weekdays during such period and shall be conducted on the second Saturday prior to a primary or election during the hours of 9 through 4 p.m., provided, however, that primaries and elections in which there are no federal or state candidates on the ballot, no Saturday voting hours. So even in primaries elections, when there's no federal, you don't have to have Saturday, but it doesn't say anything about Saturday connected to runoffs. I think it's optional. I'd like to say
okay, well, let me say
yeah.
this to you, and I don't need to answer any more questions. You've got an opinion from Ken Robin that says you need to have it based on that statute for the 19th and the 24th. Ken and I now agree that it's not mandatory for the 24th because we have found that there is a state holiday on the 24th representing George Washington Day. But we agree that the code section calls for having it on the 19th, and that's why we're here. If this board does not want to have it on the 19th, that's okay with me. But we agree that the statute calls for having it on the 19th, and I can't sit here and quibble over the language in there that's in there with you, because we could sit and talk about that all day. We would have to sit down and get a calendar out and go over it. But he and I have gone over it, and so have other attorneys throughout the state, and we feel like legally the code section says you have to have it on the 19th, and that's the only day we're talking about.
Right.
And if you disagree, then that's okay.
I don't necessarily disagree that it's a good idea. I would just like it noted that it's really at our option, and I think that's the way it's been.
It's not an option. That statute is mandatory.
But it doesn't specify a Saturday.
Okay, well, if you interpret it that way and the others do,
Just
then don't go with the 19th.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, for so we've heard the professional opinion of our attorney. I'm sure the conclusion that he's come to is in our best interest. I hope that it is. I've also discussed this with at least two other election officers, and I think they came to the same conclusion, that the 19th is mandatory based on the statute, but the other two dates are not. And so at this time, I would, if there's no other discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept the recommendation of Attorney Lee. Pam?
I move that we modify the Dougherty County advance voting schedule for the runoff election on January 5th by adding Saturday, December 19th, 2020 from 9 a.m. until 4 p.m. at the Albany James H. Gray Senior Civic Center to the advance voting schedule. And I further move for notice of this modification to the advance voting schedule for the runoff election to be publicized to the Secretary of State's office and the public in accordance with all legal requirements following approval.
Okay, I'll second that motion. Is Mr. Simmons live with us?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Is there any other discussion on the motion? No other discussion. All those in favor, by aye, please. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, there are none opposed. Thank you very much. Is there any other discussion for this particular meeting? If there is none, advanced voting is taking place at the Civic Center. Get an opportunity, please stop by and encourage your neighbors to please vote. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.